Hello and a warm welcome to my deep dive astrology overview for June 2023. And what a month is in store. Of course, on the 21st we do have the second cardinal quadrant and the summer solstice, a truly significant event in astrology, and I will explain that to you. We also have Pluto retreating back into Capricorn on the 11th, but Saturn going retrograde on the 17th. And the beautiful vibe of Venus arrives in Leo on the 5th, where she will reside for the next 4 months, which is really rare and provides lots of opportunities during that time. So there's so much exciting information to share with you. If you are a returning visitor, thank you so much for joining me once more. If you're new here, I'd be honoured if you'd subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Also, if you have any comments, please share them. This is very much a community and I try to interact with each one. If you'd like to get your free written daily horoscope fired to your device each morning, please see the link beneath this video where you can subscribe. Now, as this month begins, so the sun is in the sign of Gemini, which is all about communication. And we are going to have an opportunity this month to engage with one another, but it's not necessarily going to be without some challenges. But what does help is that on the 11th, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, returns to that sign. Now, because since the 4th of April, Mercury has been making its way through the part of our situations to do with self-worth, everyday money, and also our values, I think it has been quite a sluggish time in some ways. So I think Mercury returning to Gemini is something we can all relish. But also, all through this month, Saturn, the planet of structure, is in a very balanced link with Jupiter, the planet of growth. And this becomes exact on the 19th. When these two are moderating each other, it's very, very helpful. Jupiter now back in the sign of Taurus since the 16th of May last month gives us an opportunity to think very much about our values, but also how we can evolve around them. And also it can give us an added appreciation of creature comfort. So having Saturn there just can slow down the excesses that Jupiter can create. But we do have a full moon on the 4th, and this occurs in the sign of Sagittarius, which is very much about the truth of situations. And because Venus is broadly opposite Pluto in the first 10 days of this month, I feel it's a full moon that is going to see a lot of conversation around relationships. Now, we don't necessarily have to be in one to have those conversations, because when I say relationships, I don't just mean of the romantic variety. Venus influences money as well as our self-worth, so we can have a conversation about that with a friend, a family member, as well as someone we may be more intimately involved with. But Venus then moves, still in the opposition with Pluto broadly, into the sign of Leo on the 5th. And is going to be here for the next 4 months, through to the 9th of October. Now, Venus usually takes 28 days to go through each sign, so there's a lot of excitement around this event. And also because Mars is already in Leo, and Mars is a very self-confident and alluring vibe in Leo, this adds a very social but also a very summary influence to the combination. Now, if you're in the southern hemisphere, I would say that you can still be playful, but it may have to be a little bit more centered around your homes. But also, it's important to know that Venus will go into a retrograde on July the 23rd for 44 days. So it's not necessarily going to be all plain sailing. Venus in Leo likes to showcase talent, creativity, flair, artistry. And if you have children, their pursuits can take on an added dimension for you. But also on the 11th, not only does Mercury return brightly to Gemini, we have Pluto returning to Capricorn. So it's only actually been in Capricorn at this point for 11 weeks, moving on the 23rd of March. So it's going to be in the sign of Capricorn through to the 21st of January next year. And then it will spend 38 weeks in Aquarius before switching back into Capricorn. And finally, in the autumn, residing back in Aquarius for the longer term. So what does this mean? Well, the key to know is that in week 3 of this month, Pluto does forge a quincunx with the Sun. So that's a 150 degree angle. And this is also going to embrace the summer solstice. And it's quite complex. If we think the Sun is very much about our soul energy, our desire, where we want to manifest our talents. So initially at this point in Gemini, so our ideas, this is an air sign, very much communicating with passion. But I feel that we need to look at this quincunx in terms of 3rd and 8th house energy. And what we're getting here is that there can be a lot of dialogue around finance and how finance affects us all. So that's really interesting. But also on the 17th, Saturn, as I mentioned before, slams on the brakes through to the 4th of November. Now Saturn's at 7 degrees at this point, but it actually rotates backwards to almost 0 degrees in the sign of Pisces. And that's the place it was on the 7th of March. So some of the things that happened early in March, we can expect to happen by November, particularly in a more global context. But on the 18th, we have a new moon. And the new moon in Gemini is usually one of the brightest and most vivacious of the whole year. But this one is actually in a square with the dreamy, but also sometimes distorting energies of Neptune. I think it's a new moon that suggests that we have to become ever more mindful of the effect that our communication has on our collective mental health. There's a lot of white noise of viewpoints being expressed these days, obviously particularly through mediums such as Twitter, and that creates gives people a platform to give that opinion. But we all need to be very conscious that sometimes we may be making an opinion with not a full understanding of the facts. So anything to do with distortion of information is going to come sharply into focus on the 18th of this month. But I should just say also, through the first 2 weeks of this month, Jupiter and the true North Node are broadly in a conjunction. Now, on the face of it, this would suggest that the expansion of Jupiter and the more karmic energies of the North Node, which is our collective consciousness, could create opportunities or improvements around finance. It's just worth knowing that the last time this happened in 1929, we did have the Wall Street crash. Now, it didn't happen until October, and the combination between the North Node and Jupiter was actually in the June. But by the time that we got round to the October that year, the South Node had Mars next to it, the ruler of Scorpio, traditionally, in the 12th house. So a lot of stuff to do with stocks that weren't quite clearly understood came into the open, and that obviously caused a big crash. So we need to be aware we are going through a reconfiguration around our use of resources, our awareness of the value of things, and that's something we all need to work at. And we can't automatically assume that cheap money and plentiful credit and the ability just to consume the resources of the planet are going to be readily available forevermore. So we're going to see a big switch to growing stuff from home, cooking more from scratch, being a bit thriftier, like perhaps our parents and forebearers were. But on the 21st, the Sun moves into the sign of Cancer, and we get that second cardinal quadrant of the year. And this is an opportune time to tell you about more serious astrology, because if you do want to understand the power that the knowledge of your personal astrology can give you, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data, of time, date and place of birth, I can produce for you your life roadmap report, which gives you searing insights into the patterns that are played out in your situation and a more intimate understanding of the challenges, but also where you can work with your qualities. And in my special package of 30% off, you can also get your 12-month forecast. Totally unique to you, these charts. And if you don't know your time, I can produce for you your solar package, which works in the same way. It's just based on the sun. So if you enjoy sun sign astrology, watching your sun sign video, this will make it more relatable for you. But the summer solstice is when we start cardinal quadrant 2, because Western tropical astrology is divided into 4 segments based on the seasons. So Western tropical astrology doesn't take into account the precession of the equinoxes. That's sidereal astrology. And reviews, peer-led reviews, have found that Western tropical astrology actually scores really highly when it comes to predictive events. But what the summer solstice does for the following 13 weeks is asks us to become much more conscious of how we feel about things and anything to do with security. But also because that quincunx with Pluto is still playing into the situation, there's going to be a need to balance how we feel about things to how things affect us collectively. Now on the 28th, Mercury joins up with the Sun in the sign of Cancer. So that's terrific, because that can bring a more sparkling dimension to the combination. And in fact, on the first day of July, they're going to come into an exact conjunction known as a cazimi, which really can see us thinking very, very carefully but clearly around anything to do with property, home or emotional matters. It's just in the last 10 days of this month that Mars in Leo goes into a very disruptive and rather abrasive right angle with Uranus in the sign of Taurus. So however much we may want to be a bit more hedonistic and enjoy partying or having a good time, that actually can have an impact on our resources. So I don't think the last third of this month is a great time to be too speculative with our resources. However, from the 27th to the 30th, the Sun forges one of the luckiest aspects possible, a sextile to Jupiter, which is really terrific, but also a trine to Saturn. So as this month comes to a close, despite that rather choppy energy between Mars and Uranus, the last 3 days also sees Venus very close to Mars. So it's a great chance to perhaps have some kind of gathering in our home environment, but also enjoy blending flair with how we feel about things. It's been a real pleasure being with you. If you'd like to understand what this month holds for your zodiac sign, please see the link below and you can watch your in-depth video for each. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, comment or subscribe.